Well, it's wonderful to be back here in Toronto again. It always reminds me of when I used to live in this part of the world. Uh, there was a house over on Gothic Avenue, just off of Davenport Road, by the train tracks, and a bunch of us used to stay there together. And it was sort of the den mother of our group. Was a great, unfortunately now gone hero of Canadian roots music, Colleen Peterson. Broken promises are your best friend. Fences on the mend at 4 a.m. And the plans we made, kitchen table laid, in the morning to be broken again. Always the one to be done unto, to be taken advantage of. Pay the rent on the pleasures that's spent by the fools in the house of love. Pay the rent on the pleasure that's spent by the fools in the house of love. Desperate milk of human kindness flows, a sorry river to the sea. Cold and lonely is the wind that blows, it make you rattle like a hollow reed. Always the one to be done unto, to be taken advantage of. Pay the rent on the pleasure that's spent by the fools in the house of love. Pay the rent on the pleasure that's spent by the fools in the house of love. But that big spotlight could shine on you. You make your way up to the stage. Ain't no limit what that girl can do, but it make you rattle like an empty page. Don't that one-man band feels so good in your hands? It's the chance you've been dreaming of. Staying alive and trying to survive with the fools in the house of love. Don't that one-man band feel so good in your hand? It's a chance that you've been dreaming of. Staying alive by trying to survive, but the fools in the house of love. Staying alive, trying to survive with the fools in the house of love.
You first hit the scene Mariposa-ish, mid-70s? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, actually, you're right on. Next 2 weeks from now will be the 40th anniversary to the day of when I came to Canada. So it was March of 1971. And I moved immediately up to north of Huntsville to a little town called Emsdale, and had a little farmette up there. And
how hippie?
Yeah, it was real hippie, man. And and my wife came home from the doctor one day, and the doctor said that tumor has a heartbeat. So we, so we were going to have a kid, so we had a baby, and the whole deal.
A tumor had a heartbeat. Eh?
Yeah, so she thought she had a tumor, right? And, as a baby. Anyway, so we had our son there, and that's kind of where the music started. And I would come down to Toronto and do guest sets, and there was a place called Grumbles on Jarvis Street, just like 10 blocks from here, and I did a guest set there, and Estelle Klein came, who was the founding artistic director of Mariposa, and it was like you tell young musicians about this today, they can't believe it, because I said, yeah, I just got up there with my guitar, I played 3 songs, and Estelle Klein came up and said, you want to play Mariposa? And I said, what's that? Okay, I guess. I didn't know. I hadn't a clue. The first day I arrived out there, the first workshop I did was with John Prine and Steve Goodman.
Of course.
Like, wow. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, all right. I had never been on stage at a folk festival before. After I did the Mariposa thing, I thought, oh, okay, I'm a star now. I went in and recorded a demo and shopped it around, right around downtown Toronto, where all the record companies used to be here in downtown before they all moved out to Scarborough,
right,
and then disappeared. but nobody would sign me. And I finally thought, I'm unsignable, so I'll do my own record company. And I started a little record company called Woodshed Records. And I had the sense, looking back on it, it was a good decision to immediately get other musicians on the label, because I thought if I don't do that, it'll look like a vanity press thing. And also, they were people worthy of recording. They couldn't get on record labels either. I mean, nobody really could in that
So who were some
time.
of the folks you had on that label?
Well, the biggest was Willie P. I can still see you walking through London in the night, in that crazy fireman's raincoat, Willie. It never fit you right. And we'd sit down on some park bench, Queen Victoria, don't you cry. We got that 5-star in our bellies, and the music's in your eyes. And in a beat-up house out in nowhere, you pulled out your first songs, and I flipped on my old tape deck and let it run till dawn. Sent us stumbling to our senses, your heartstrings wrung us dry. We were heavy with the beauty of the music in your eyes. And sometimes we'd bet on ponies who would come into the bar. They would promise us a long ride, but they never took us far away from all of our problems. They gave us bad advice. They put rhinestones in our pockets and music in our eyes. And then the years poured out like bourbon, and we walked on different roads. And I wrapped your words around me like a beggar in his robes. And when summer squalls will threaten to darken all the skies, I can take my tender refuge in the music in your eyes. And I can still see you walking through London in the night, in that crazy fireman's raincoat, Willie, it never fit you right. And we'd sit down on some park bench, Queen Victoria, don't you cry. We got the 5-star in our bellies, you've got the music in your eyes.
In this now, you've seen this industry for nearly 40 years, in so many different incarnations, from LP records to Sam the Record Man's, to that type of environment, to where we are today. With we were just talking off camera before about the Social Network, which featured a character who was the founder of Napster, who kind of put the world on its, turned that whole world on its head a few years ago. And it's still, the earthquake is still happening here. As a recording artist today, releasing new materials, and as you observe the scene in general, what's your take on where things are going? Are you as optimistic perhaps today about the scene as you might have been 40 years ago?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm totally optimistic about it. But I think for me the optimism comes in large from 2 points of view. One is the folk process worked. We did it. We actually transferred our culture orally to the next generations. So there are people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who are doing the stuff that they learned from us, and that we learned from from Doc Watson. Basically, I learned it from Doc Watson, and I taught it to, whoever, and then now they do it. And the other thing is the democratization, however you pronounce that, of the whole process. I mean, any kid who buys an Apple computer, it comes with GarageBand already in it. He's got a recording studio in his bedroom with it. A lot of them don't even know they've got it. You buy a USB microphone at Radio Shack for $100, stick it into your computer, and you have a recording studio in your bedroom. When I started out, the second,
and you're not offended by that.
Oh, I think that's cool.
Because there's a lot of old school producers and so on who are very offended by that.
I think it's wonderful because to me it gets you right back to quality. The quality comes, the cream comes through. The good stuff comes through. Because when I started recording, we spent a fortune on recording studios. The second album I did, High Ground, we used Brian Ahern's Enactron truck. It was a 42-foot van that we moved into this farm up near where I lived and recorded. It was like what we used to call at CBC the 10-ton pencil. It's like this huge thing that you had to carry around with you. Well, now, I mean, you can have a 16-track recording studio in a thing this big, that you can hold in one hand. I've been a judge for lots of music award things. And it's not hard to tell what's good. It comes right up. But one of my favorite albums was recorded by a guy named Hal Brolin, who used to live in Winnipeg.
Manitoba Hal.
Manitoba Hal. It was an album called Come the Revolution. He did it in his bedroom on a laptop with a $100 Apex Chinese microphone. It sounds fabulous. It's still one of the best roots records ever made in Canada.
David, thank you so much for dropping by here at the Woodshed. We could go on forever because you have endless amounts of great stories. And thank you so much for gracing our stage with your music and with your presence. And we hope to be dropping again one of these days.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's the nicest compliment I ever got. I was doing a sound check at a gig in Toronto or in Vancouver, and this kid came up after the sound check and said, "Dude, you shred." And I thought, what? What are you talking about? I never